Jose Mourinho's first game back at the Bernabeu after his return to Real Madrid is going to see us face off against a tougher opposition in Real Sociedad. And of course, today we're going to look at their form, our form, how the game will play out, and my starting lineup for this matchup. Of course, before we do that, please comment your thoughts on the game down below as well. Let me know your prediction. Let me know who do you think will shine in this game and who do you think will be the biggest problem from Real Sociedad side. Because we all know that Real Sociedad is not the team to be playing around with. Of course, we have a great record against them, and they are not the greatest of sides, you know, against Real Madrid, definitely not. But when they are on it, Real Sociedad can be a little bit tough for Real Madrid, especially if they get their first goal. Honestly, I rate their attack higher than I think, you know, most people will, because I still think that this attack, especially this is of course only the predicted lineup for Real Sociedad. This is of course as well only the predicted lineup for Real Madrid on FootMob, so keep that in mind. But I'm gonna be working with this lineup. It's Kubo, Oscarson, and Barrenetxea in the attack, and I think they can definitely be, you know, a problem for our defense. Which this defense is probably not gonna be in my, you know, own predicted lineup for the game, which we're gonna do at the end of the video, but I think they can definitely be a problem. I think attacking wise, from the midfield, I think that's where they lack the most in their attack, because Sucic, if I'm going to be completely honest, I expected a little bit more when he came into the league. You know, I think he had like 4 goals and 3 assists last season. Before that, it was even worse in more matches. So I think I expect a little bit more. I don't think he's, you know, that attacking midfielder really, and they don't really have an attacking midfielder, because Carlos Soler, he's more of an 8. Herrera, I would even count him as more of a 6 to 8. They have a lot of defensive-minded players in the midfield. That's what I think they lack in the attack. But defense, you always gotta look out for these guys, because Gomez, Zubeldia, Arambaru, you know, Ramiro, they can just have a good game. You know, they always have that one guy, fullback, you know, midfielder even, that just has a great game, and that's where it could become tough for Real Madrid. But of course, we're gonna be the favorite, you know, even in terms of form, because even if we look at Real Sociedad's form, the preseason really wasn't that great, apart from this win against Aston Villa. And Aston Villa, you know, didn't really play their best team, and Real Sociedad didn't as well. Then they played, you know, Toulouse, they lost 2-1. Cologne, 2-1, 3-1 to Chelsea. And then the first league game went against them as well, and they lost to Real Betis. We can even look a little bit further into this. I don't want to spend too much time on Real Sociedad, but even if we look at the stats, you know, they created 3 shots on target, 9 total shots, way less than Real Betis. But if you look at the XG, they actually outperformed Real Betis, even though Real Betis won this game 1-0, and they just couldn't capitalize. And I just think it's the fact that these 2 wingers, which Barrenetxea and Kubo, are in this, you know, predicted lineup. I just think they're not really, you know, that attacking minded. They don't want to be a goal threat. They are that kind of winger that wants to beat their man. They're tidy. Barrenetxea, I would say, is more, you know, the goal threat here, and Kubo is like the playmaking guy from the wings and is more technical. But I would just say they definitely do create chances, and their quality of chances are usually pretty good. Even though they have lost against Real Betis, it's not like they started their season with a crazy crash out, because let's be honest, Real Betis is a side that is currently in the Champions League. Now, for Real Madrid's, you know, latest fixtures, we have gone completely unbeaten, of course, in preseason, which was expected against Fiorentina, Ferencváros, Deportivo La Coruña, and then Schalke, which Schalke, I would say, was probably the best game, I would say, for, you know, a team performance. And then in Espanyol, we, of course, know the game didn't really go as we wanted to. It was much more of a struggle than most of us expected, especially in terms of the actual result being decided in the 90th minute. Because, we did definitely predict that this game was going to be tough, but I don't think many people had us, you know, scoring in the 90th minute of a Carlos Espi, Joselu type of winner against Espanyol in the first game. You know, we expected more. We can definitely say that. And we expected more definitely from certain players. For example, like Vinicius, Valverde, you know, some people off the bench. Maybe Trent wasn't as good, you know, as people thought he was going to be. But I think that there is definitely positive to be had about this team, especially with Jude Bellingham and Arda Güler, you know. And even the defense looked much better. Second half, the midfield looked a little bit more compact, I agree. But the chance creation, and when the chance was actually created, Vinicius and Mbappe just have to do better in this second game. And, you know, the first home game is so important. You know, it's the first game of the season. If it isn't a home game, the next game is usually going to be the home game. You need to perform that. Honestly, if I had to rank this game in terms of, you know, how important is the Espanyol first game of the season or the second game, but it's at the home stadium, I would have them around the same expectancy of how much we actually need to win those two games, because the home game stands for something else, because it's the first time you're in your home stadium, Jose Mourinho returns back, we have our own fans, and you know, if you win at home, suddenly there is a home record going already. You have that support of the fans. You entertain the fans. You know, you get that positive thoughts to the players. They perform at home. They get more applaudance. You know, there's no vicious energy suddenly between the players and the fans and the president, for example, like it was in some seasons. Not particularly last season, because last season I think we went 6 games out of 6, or even 7 games out of 7, where we won every single game with Xabi Alonso. But you know, that ended up a little bit differently. There were some difficulties after, of course, the first 10-15 games, because we just completely capitulated last season. But the first, you know, 10-15 games are just so crucial, and especially the first home game. I want to start off with a clean victory for Real Madrid. I'm going to be expecting a way better, you know, attacking performance by Real Madrid, because I think defensively, even yes, we have conceded 1 goal against Espanyol, which is of course not ideal, especially the way that we conceded, because if you see the goal actually back, that Valverde is basically telling Carreras like, go on, that's your player, you should mark him, then Carreras doesn't mark him, but Fede Valverde should take the initiative and mark the player himself. You know, there is a lot of, you know, how would you call it? I would call it backpacking, honestly. Like, Fede Valverde just backpacks off Carreras and blames it on him, you know. Carreras points a finger, well, that's kind of your man, like, you know, you should mark him. No, somebody needs to take the initiative, and in this case, look, Carreras, of course, he came in for a lot of money, but let's be honest, guys, he's 23 years old, and then Fede Valverde is 28, and he also has the captaincy armband. I would expect him to be a little bit more switched on defensively. I want a little bit more switched on from the defense, especially, you know, in those situations where we just shouldn't be conceding. That goal we conceded against Espanyol is not a goal that you should be conceding as Real Madrid, because that's just a simple mistake. The cross in there is just not a great cross. The guy is literally alone, and that's the only reason we conceded. It's because of miscommunication and the fact that nobody wants to take the initiative. But as I said, Vini, Kylian Mbappe, you need to do better. And even I would say Jude Bellingham and Arda Güler, yes, they were great in the first half. Yes, they were great overall. I think Arda Güler was the man of the match, and Jude Bellingham came in close second. But honestly, Arda, if you have a chance, sometimes just pop the ball. Pop the ball, try it, top corner. We know you have that finesse shot. We know it. Jude Bellingham, sometimes, if there is a pass to Vini, or if there is a pass to Kylian Mbappe, you know what? Just take it yourself, go for it. Honestly, sometimes I wish they just didn't look so much for Kylian Mbappe. And I know why Güler does this, because he can find it. But it gets to a point where Jude Bellingham and Güler are forcing the ball to Vini and Mbappe, like, you know, get your goal, get your mentality up. But sometimes they're just not on it. Kylian Mbappe was not finishing his chances, even though he was much more involved than Vinicius. But it just wasn't working out, you know? And sometimes it's better to take, you know, the matter into your own hands. And when they did that, Arda Güler finds Jude Bellingham scores. Please do that even more. Do that even more. Now, a little bit more on Real Sociedad. What I would like to see from Real Madrid is completely focus on this one stat, which is, you know, from the whole game. And Real Betis completely beat them out the park. And I know Real Betis, of course, was playing at home, which is, of course, the same advantage we will have against Real Sociedad. And I want to see that too. You have that home advantage. You should be winning more duels. And that's exactly why Real Betis won this game. If you look at this, this is a huge difference in duels won. They won 53 duels to 42. They won 37 ground duels to their 33. They won 16 aerial duels to their 9 aerial duels. And then, of course, successful dribbles. That's not really a duel. That's just a guy beating a man. I don't know why this isn't duels. I get it. It's a 1v1. It's a duel. But, you know, I take duels more into as a defensive kind of things. But if you know what I mean. The team that has more of the ball will usually win the game. How do you get the ball? You win it in a duel. You defend well. You know, you look in defensively if it is, Dean Huijsen or Konate heading the ball away or winning those aerial duels, or, you know, if there's Bernardo Silva, Camavinga, Valverde, Jude, Arda winning those ground duels, you know, against the midfield, which is probably gonna be Herrera, Soler, and Sucic, which I think this is not really a defensive midfield. If you look at this, it's more of a technical midfield. You know, Soler more technical on the ball, Herrera kind of the defensive-minded one, but he is still, you know, not that typical 6 player, and as I said, Sucic is just a typical 8 to 10 kind of player. I think this genuinely can be a really, really tough game for Real Madrid if we don't lock in defensively from the start. As I said, if they get the first goal, I think their defense really isn't bad, and Ramiro, he can have a 10 out of 10 game or a 1 out of 10 game. Honestly, I don't know what to expect from him. You know, he's getting a little bit older now. How much? He's 31 now. He's still, for a keeper, that's still young. You know, Romero has been in this league for like, it seems like centuries, honestly. So please lock in defensively, and of course the output of the strikers and, you know, Vinicius, and I would even say, you know, Arda Güler, just let it go. Sometimes just let it go. Just let the shot go. We know you can shoot. Honestly, Arda Güler should have even more free reign because he's just so important in this team. I think if he scored a little bit more goals, that confidence is going even more and more and more up. And honestly, from his last game, I couldn't say anything bad about him, honestly. But imagine if he just scored that goal, that confidence is right up there. I think Arda Güler can honestly give us even more than he's doing now. I genuinely think he's that good, honestly. And one more thing I gotta say before I move on to the predicted lineup, of course, and the score prediction. I said Arda Güler and Jude Bellingham don't work together. Absolute nonsense. Because, you know, I always said Arda Güler cannot play as a right winger. That's exactly what he did in this game. He didn't play as a right winger. He played as a right-sided player. He was playing basically here. Right above Bernardo and right next to Jude Bellingham in the pockets. Starting, you know, from the wide positions, going inside and then trying to find the pass. So if they continue to play like this, they can definitely play together. I was wrong. I'm not gonna lie. I just thought that Arda Güler, when he was on the right, he was limiting himself. He didn't do that in this game. So shout out to Arda Güler and, of course, Jose Mourinho. Now, how will Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid line up? Of course, this is a question of every single, you know, preview in Real Madrid's history, because there is actual options right now. And when, you know, back in the day, I think we had so much more options as well. That is just a question of, you know, do we bank on in the second game already on the new signings? And we put them out there, because in the first game, of course, we had some injuries as well. We have still Tchouaméni, Militao, Rodrigo, Thiago Petarch is injured, many other players. You know, even Jude Bellingham now will supposedly have a little bit of a knock from the Espanyol game where he just, you know, did it to himself. I remember the pitch was in such a bad state. He like tripped over himself. But I'm hoping that Jude Bellingham will be, you know, fully fit for this game. So I'm going to use Jude Bellingham. The other players are still going to be injured. Now, in the goalkeeper position, there is no other choice than Thibaut Courtois, of course. I don't think the first game really, you know, has anything to do with him. Maybe in some situation, he could have taken initiative a little bit more, ran out a little bit more from, you know, from his line, but I don't think the goal is anything to do with Courtois, honestly. That's just our defending. Now, at right back, I would honestly go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. This is not a hostile game. You're not going to have away fans shouting on you. You're not going to be, you know, having so many attacks against you, especially like we did against Espanyol, because Espanyol, tough game, and it's away. I get the decision why he started Dumfries, but I still think that Dumfries is a player where he is just so much better when he's coming off the bench against tired legs, and he can do his attack and, you know, stuff. I think the playmaking ability of Trent Alexander-Arnold, once again, would have helped us even more against Espanyol, and I think we need that against Sociedad at the Bernabeu. Now, on the left back position, I'm actually gonna go once again for Alvaro Carreras. I still think we need to save Cucurella a little bit. He looked a little bit sluggish or just not really ready for the game. I think he just looked okay. And, you know, why rush him back? Honestly, why rush him back when he just won the World Cup? You know, he had one preseason game where he played like 30 minutes, and now he played only 30 minutes against Espanyol. I still think there's time, so I would be starting Alvaro Carreras because he actually surprised me. honestly, he surprised me. He played pretty well. Other than that defensive situation where we conceded a goal, I think he was honestly great. And I still think that Fede Valverde should have taken the initiative in that situation, because you cannot trust the younger players in this team defensively. We just have to learn that Dean Huijsen and Carreras, they will have to learn a few things before we actually can fully trust them. That is time to develop. Talking about Huijsen, of course, he's going to be my starting center back alongside Konate. And honestly, guys, I think this was probably one of the best games Dean Huijsen has had in La Liga, in terms of just being defensively solid and being good on the ball. Honestly, he was good all around. He didn't really have anything that I could take out on him. I know he lost some duels, and once again, we did concede a goal, but not really his fault, honestly. I think, once again, the same goes for Konate. The center backs did their job. They won their duels. They had, so many defensive contributions. I remember Konate winning so many headers, which was so crucial in this game, because once again, it just didn't give Espanyol that chance to go in behind. And, we had those problems, especially when Huijsen started next to Raul Asensio or Rudiger, where Rudiger is so rash sometimes, he misses a header, or he doesn't go for the header, tries to go for a tackle. We get beaten. They are going in behind. That didn't really happen with Konate, because usually, Konate either wins that header because he's a fucking physical monster, or Dean Huijsen is behind him to cover him, and now we had, of course, Dunphy as well there, but I'm not expecting the Real Sociedad to be on the front foot, as maybe it would be if we were playing against them in an away game, in their stadium. Konate, I think Huijsen did really well. I was really surprised with Konate, even though I was one of the guys that actually was rating the Konate signing, because so many Madrid fans just underrated Konate, honestly. We have to look at the fact that he was also playing in the Premier League. He was playing for a Liverpool side that did shambolically bad, comparing them to the year before where they won the title. So please give Konate a little bit more time and let him settle into the team, because he's already doing better than people expected. Now, in the midfield, I would 1,000,000% not be starting Federico Valverde if it was up to me, but I'm going to be, completely realistic. I don't think that Camavinga or, Arda Güler will be coming into the double pivot. And once again, I think it's just going to be the same situation of Bernardo Silva starting with Valverde and Jude Bellingham in the number 8 position. And honestly, guys, I just gotta say it. I don't care how much Diomande cost. Arda Güler was the better player. Arda Güler still should be starting. If it was up to me, of course, I would be trying this midfield with Diomande right here on the right side. But, of course, if I'm going to be completely honest, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Diomande is still having a little bit trouble adapting to the fact that he is actually a Real Madrid player. You could see that he looked a little bit nervous before he was coming on. I don't think on the pitch that he did particularly bad. Even in the last goal that we scored, he was giving the pass to Mbappe where he took it into the box, and then SP, of course, finished it. He didn't really do bad. I don't know why people are acting like he had a bad game, honestly, and making compilations of him. He has a shit touch or whatever. He had like one bad touch. It's just trolling from the other fan bases. Sorry. But I would still start Arda Güler in this position. If it was up to me, of course, I would take out Fede Valverde and try Arda Güler and Bernardo in the same position, or even maybe Jude Bellingham next to Jude Bellingham next to Bernardo and Arda in the 10. But I'm going to keep it a little bit more realistic and say that Diomande will still not start this game, but I think he will get more minutes. There is, of course, a possibility where, Vinicius doesn't start and Diomande gets more minutes here, but I just don't see it, guys. You need Vinicius to have that confidence. Are you going to give him confidence, with benching him in the second game? Absolutely not. I would say that's the wrong decision, So this would be the lineup if Mourinho was making it. But, of course, I, want to make my lineup as well. So if we do my biased lineup, is this one. Honestly, I am honestly so... I am over, trusting Fede Valverde or even giving chances to Fede Valverde to prove himself in this double pivot system. Fede Valverde should be a right back or a right-sided player, because I'm just tired of him making passes like he's a trampoline. Honestly, his defending is just too rash. His best abilities are not being used in this double pivot. You know, like, he's so fast. He's so good at finishing. He's so good at defending wingers. He's so good at, making recovery runs. He's so good at 1v1s. You just don't have that kind of, 1v1s or that pace. You just don't use that much in a double pivot. Let's be honest, guys. You need passing, awareness, press resistancy. Like, I just don't see that in Fede Valverde, and I think we're misusing him, honestly. It could honestly be better if Arda Güler was in the midfield from the start, and then you have to use these pockets from the right, and just be in the middle, or be, in the 10, and Jude Bellingham be in the 8, or they could just be like this, and then Fede Valverde could be slotting in and helping the defense. Of course, that's a question for another day, but if we're just gonna do this, and Jude Bellingham in the 8, Fede Valverde would work wonders on the right side, but he wants to be a midfielder, guys. This Toni Kroos number 8 gimmick from Fede Valverde has to end. I wouldn't be starting him. But if you ask me what Jose Mourinho is going to do, you saw the lineup with Fede Valverde. And of course, the striker, even though I loved Carlos Espí, is going to be, of course, Kylian Mbappe. I don't think there's any other, there is no way Carlos Espí is starting. The only way I see Carlos Espí starting, once again, if Kylian Mbappe comes to the right, Vinicius is benched, and, Carlos Espí will be the striker. That's not gonna happen though. So yeah, what I'm expecting from this lineup is much better attacking force, of course, with Vini and Kylian Mbappe being on the lookout, especially Vinicius, because once again, too much talking to the referee, not too much doing on the ball, and talking with your feet and your GA. Like, Vinicius, please lock in. This is a home game. I know you like to perform, especially at the Santiago Bernabeu. Please cook. Yeah, I want you to cook. I want you to be good. And I want Mbappe to be good. I want Arda Güler to do good. I want Diomande to do good. If Fede Valverde drops an absolute 10 out of 10 in the double pivot, I'm going to be like, fair enough. Fair enough, bro. Or if he, is substituted, or if he's starting, whatever. I want everybody in this team to do good. But remember one thing. Win your duels in this game. Don't let these attackers fool you with their attacking numbers, that Kubo doesn't really score that much, or Barrenetxea doesn't really have crazy GA. They can hurt you if you're not 100% on it. And of course, as I said before, this attack has to do better in finishing those chances created by Arda Güler or facilitated by the ball carrying of Bellingham and, the other people like Carreras, Trent, Bernardo, Yan Diomande, or even when Fede Valverde was there. They did give some crazy chances to Vinicius and Mbappe in that Espanyol game, which they just didn't finish. That has to be changed in that game. And please win this game against Real Sociedad. What is going to be our actual score prediction for Real Sociedad and Real Madrid? I was really on the fence by putting us in a clean sheet, or putting the prediction on a clean sheet. But I'm just gonna say it. Match in sight. It's literally is that. Real Sociedad lost their last 4 matches and haven't kept a clean sheet in 16 matches. So I'm 100% telling you guys, Real Madrid is scoring in this game, and we need to keep a clean sheet. I just think that Real Sociedad are in some kind of a rough patch, and if we score that first goal and, act upon that things that I said, I think this game will end 2-0 for Real Madrid against Real Sociedad. We will keep a clean sheet and have the 3 points at home, and it will be way more comfortable if we actually finish our chances, unlike we did against Espanyol. It doesn't even have to be like a 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. Just finish your chances, make it 2-0 maybe before the first half or just outside of the second half starts, and we will have a great game at the Santiago Bernabeu, and then we can celebrate. Of course, there is many possibilities how this could go wrong. We all know how we move, especially when we concede first. So please don't do that. Don't concede stupid goals, and lock in that defensive performance, especially from the midfielders, and finish your chances. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment your thoughts on the game, and please subscribe, because we are so close to 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much once again for watching, and I will see you for the watch along and for many other videos. Peace out.